G'day guys, welcome back to Supercoach with DR and welcome to the round one review. Now, my theme going into this year was play it safe. You know, get your floaties on, get the swimming cap on, stay between the red flags. But unfortunately, I think I may have played it a little bit too safe. You know, I should have just been a bit of a rebel, straight out just that little bit. And I'm not talking about get yourself involved in the middle of a rip here, you know, not risks like that, but, you know, take a little bit of a risk, have a little bit of an adventure. I think I may have just kept it a little bit plain, I think. But I'll talk about the team in a minute. Look, overall score, 22-44, top 24%. So certainly not what I was looking for going into round one. Season rank, 37,227. Now, it seems like you should just quit now, doesn't it? You know, 37k, that's not what I'm after. But I'll tell you what, I've found in years gone past that your round one rank doesn't really matter that much, because round two, you often see that lots of these blokes that have popped off in round one, some unexpected type players, sort of come back to the pack just after 1 week. You know, we can all start on fire, and some blokes can have a bit of a poor start. You know, that's okay. We saw that with some of our defenders, a lot of our defenders this week, which we'll take a quick look at when I get into my team, and we might do a bit of a general discussion about some of the defenders, or that may even be for another video. We'll see how we go. But look, I wouldn't get too down in the dumps if you haven't had the greatest score this week. And I may have done this at the start of last year, I'm not too sure, but just want to quickly show you something here. So this is why, how'd you go? No, I think I'm right, thanks. This is why I don't worry too much, you know, about your round one start. So round one, I'm going back a few years here to 2014, but round one, 29,340, right? Not great. Round two, all the way up to 4,000. Then you keep going up, 3,000, a little bit down to 7. But anyway, let's go to the end here, and you'll see that we've got a season rank of 33rd overall. So 33rd overall from a pretty poor start of around 30k. Let's just round that to 30k. So I just quickly want to show that graphic, just in case you are down in the dumps a little bit at the moment, and you're thinking to yourself, I've put all this bloody hard work in, and it's got me absolutely nowhere. Don't worry, you can get very, very far in this game with some good trading. And look, coming into the next couple of rounds, do we trade? Do we make some corrections? I'll talk about what I'm doing in a minute, but generally not. Generally not. You try to keep faith with your premiums. Look, rookies are a little bit of a different story, but we always want to have at least 2 weeks data if possible. But I'll talk about my trades in a minute. But look, that's probably it for the intro. I think not wrapped, but it's only week one. Let's have a look at the team. Now, before I go through individual players, I better show you the actual team, because I did make a structural change just before round one, which would have been after my latest team reveal. You can see that there's no Jack Steele here, which is pretty fortunate, but unfortunately, there is a Jack Crisp there. Originally, I skipped past all of those premium defenders, and Jaden Short was my D1, but with the lack of rookie options down back, I thought it's a bit of a risk, you know, going too light down there. So I thought I'd better get Hewitt at least at D4. So that was a major change there. I also bought Hoff in as well. Stevens obviously came in. I think I had Gipkus. Was it Gipkus down there originally? So I think it might have been Gipkus out, Stevens in, Crisp in, and Steele out. And I forget who I had there. Actually, I had a loop. Yeah, so I had Nettie Long. I was going with a loop, but I thought, you know what? Again, it's probably too much for risk. With some of these rookies, I just wasn't sure about job security, and I just wasn't comfortable running with a loop at the end of the day. I thought Miller's going to be a really solid vice captaincy option, and I'm pretty sure that there's a high likelihood that one of these rookies will be dropped before round 3 anyway. We did get De Koning, who ended up getting concussed, so I think he'll be missing 1 to 2, which I don't mean it's good that he got concussed, but the fact that it's not a real long-term injury, he actually played well when he was on the ground, so I think he comes back when he's fit, which is nice. So maybe we've got a loophole just for a couple of weeks there anyway. So I know a lot of people ended up bringing in a loophole to take advantage of either Martin's score or particularly Hayes' score. Yeah, that's not looking like the best move at the moment, because I think 70% of the comp have De Koning. I think most of the people that watch this video will have him in the team as well. So all of a sudden you've got a couple of players that are not making money, in the short term anyway. De Koning will, I know, but yeah, just a couple of quick structural changes. So I think the forward line pretty much stayed the same. Yeah, but yeah, look at those scores that were on the bench. That's really unfortunate for me. But look, let's start off in defence anyway. So this man that I did bring in, Jack Crisp. So why was that? Why was it Crisp? Well, I just wanted one of those reliable selections that I thought would be there each week and give me 100 to 105 type thing. I, I wasn't expecting a Rolls Royce here. I wasn't expecting that. I don't know how to put it into car terms. I'm not a real car man. My father-in-law likes Toyotas, reckons they're just a really reliable car. So let's just say I thought that I was buying a Toyota. I wasn't planning to drive it down Chapel Street, have coffee in a jam jar or anything like that. Nothing too fancy. But he really underdelivered. It's like the car didn't completely break down, but it's in great need of a service. He just looked like a lost man out there. That kid that has no friends, that no one wanted to be around. People didn't look to get the ball in his hands. He didn't work well as a midfielder. Even played a bit of half forward, half back. He just couldn't seem to find his spot. You had Dacos down there. He knew what his role was, played his position really, really well, and that was consistent throughout the whole night. And I think someone like a Dacos has actually had a negative effect on Jack Crisp, maybe even a Pendlebury down there as well. And he's just not that great of a midfielder, unfortunately. So Crispy, I am certainly worried about. I wish it was an Aaron Hall. It was so hard watching this man because I'd had Hall in all pre-season, but with the hammies, soft tissue stuff and Aaron Hall, I thought, no, it's just too much a risk. I can't go there, but that absolutely killed me. Tommy Stewart I was never really serious on, but again, it was just because of that injury late last year. I love the Stewart pick, and, a fit and healthy Stewart, I would have started, and he was fit and healthy, which is a frustrating thing, but I was just a little bit worried. Again, too cautious, stayed between the red flags, and Crisp was one of those selections right in the middle of those red flags. But look, he's only had one really good year of premium history. This is for a defender. Others he's been pretty solid, close to the top 10-ish type stuff, but really under-delivered, and I'm worried about the pick. Am I going to trade him this week? No. I'm going to hold the faith for at least one more week, but again, if I see something similar to what I saw on the weekend, this will be a correctional trade, and I'll talk about some players that I'm looking at maybe a little bit later, but Stewart and Hall being two of them. And James Sicily is an interesting pick as well. A value pick, you can save, about 130k on that pick if you want to go down. But again, do you want to have a Hewitt and a Sicily? We'll talk about Hewitt in a minute. Maybe that's okay now. It was looking a little bit dicier maybe a week ago. But Crisp, yeah, don't really love that selection. Bit of an unfortunate one. Jaden Short, 109. This is a pretty lucky score. Look, he's the king of the preseason, Mr. Preseason, and he didn't quite take that into round one. Now, 109, I'll take every day of the week. If it wasn't for those kickouts, man would be in trouble. But we did select him knowing that he'd take the large majority of those kickouts. So I'm not really, really worried with this pick. I'm worried about, some other defenders over Short. But, 109, I think we got out of jail with that one there. Lachie Whitfield, a 73. Look, I think the issue for Whitfield is that it was a really hotly contested game. It did open up a little bit later on, as it always does. You just can't keep that pressure up. It was something crazy in the, about 230 odd, I think, for each team, which is absolutely elite, really high rate of pressure. So it wasn't a game that really suited Lachie Whitfield. He got in the game, had those really quiet patches. But I suppose that he's got, unlike someone like a Jack Crisp, he's got that scoring history where we know that this man can do it from really any position in the ground. Now, Jack Crisp, I think, as a midfielder, people, and I am actually guilty of this myself, thinking, look, he's in the midfield, full-time midfielder, possibly, let's jump on him, but I don't think that's his best position. He just didn't look good as a midfielder, unfortunately, Crisp. I'll stop ragging on Crispy because he's a nice bloke, because I've had a bit to do with him, obviously, when he played for Brisbane, had a few decent conversations with him. He's a lovely lad, so I'll stop ragging on him now, but yeah, Whitfield, I'm not actually too concerned about, what's his ownership? It's absolutely through the roof in the competition, so most of us have got him, I think. So, yeah, we can forgive Lachie Whitfield. I think that he can bounce back. This man, George Hewitt. Wow. Yeah, just love this pick. And look, you can see there that I've got 112k in the bank as well, which again was a bit of a strategic move. And I'll talk about that probably when I get to the forward line. But I did sort of have the option of trading Hewitt up to, a Stewarty type, a Ridley type. Ridley was going to be the most likely one, but I just didn't have faith in someone like a Ridley. I did have the faith in George Hewitt because I love what he brings to the table, this man. Glowing reviews about him. Rolly Beveridge, who knows all the ins and outs of Carlton, was giving him some high praise, saying that he's going to be the man that probably stays in the midfield. But they all killed it, didn't they? Cripper, Kennedy, Chera had a good game. Yeah, that was just a phenomenal performance by Carlton's midfield. But yeah, he really continued on from his pre-season form, Georgie Hewitt. Look, does he slow up? He certainly does. He's not going to average you a 130. I can almost guarantee you that. I've even heard that Walsh may even be in the frame to play this week or next, so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in that Carlton midfield. I would have loved at least one more game without Walsh. I think that may still be the case. I don't know if he'll be fit for the upcoming round, but yeah, Hewitt, I think that he can go 105. More would be a bonus. Even if he goes around the 100 mark, that's still really good for his price. I thought he could be a keeper, and that he'd probably be my D6 for the year. I'm more confident on that after last week. But again, we'll see how the Carlton midfield setup's looking like. But did everything that we wanted him to do, put pressure on. Normally the defensive side of the contest there as well, but we knew that that's what he was bringing into the Carlton midfield as well. And that's what they really lacked, that defensive-minded midfielder. But still got in the attack as well, which is really good. So really, really happy with the Hewitt pick. Heath Chapman was looking like an absolute disaster. I'm pretty sure that... Now, I may be wrong here. You know, maybe the scores just weren't updating, but I'm pretty sure late into the game he was on about a 57 and then ended up on an 80 somehow. He was the bloke, though, that got that punch right on the line to deny Benny Keys that goal. And my best mate, Brent, who's a mad Adelaide supporter, reckons he, drink responsibly, reckons he went through about a six-pack of Jimmy in that last quarter alone. So, yeah, poor Brent. I feel for my man, because Freo got up for a point, obviously, and this man's the one that denied that goal from Benny Keys. But look, with Chapman, I didn't really feel like he had a friendly role for the first three quarters of the game. I thought Griffin Logue was playing really well. Young played a really solid game as well, and seemed like Chapman was that bloke that just wasn't really getting used. Now, towards the end of the game, had some really, really nice moments, really nice contested intercept mark, a couple of long bombs into the 50, which I think resulted into scoring shots. I'm pretty sure on that, may be wrong, but he did have a real impact in that last quarter. But up until then, I really didn't like his role. It seemed like he had a bit of a nothing role. I think he took a kick out, which was nice, but they were too few and far in between. I don't think we can rely on that. I don't know how many intercepts we can rely on either. He did start on the bench. Logue was a preferred option to start on field, and I thought that he had a really solid game, but I still like his job security. 80 was a lot better than what I thought it would be, particularly when it got to three-quarter time. If he can continue with 80s, I'm absolutely wrapped. I'm not too confident that he can, though. But for now, it seems fairly successful. He's sort of done his job. You know, he's got an 80, offers solid job security. He's on field. That's okay for now, Chapman, but not overly wrapped with the pick. Hinge, this bloke was looking all right, but then his role changed a little bit. Had to play up the ground a little bit more, which I didn't like too much. But look, 180k for a score of 50, it's not ideal, is it? I wanted a 65 plus, and I still think that Hingy can do that. But I think he's that utility type where, you know, half back, wing, half forward. It just depends where the team needs him, which can be a bit of a detriment to his scoring. But look, I'll still take it, I suppose. He's a rookie that's playing down back. That's okay. Gipkus was the other one. What did he get? About a 59, was it? I may be wrong. I'm not too sure because I don't own him, obviously. But Hinge v Gipkus, yeah, I'm still pretty happy with the Hinge selection, I think. Paddy McCartan, 70. You absolute ripper. We can't ask for much more than that. Had a couple of terrible clangers, which, you know, heart in the mouth type stuff. You're thinking, oh, geez, he's a little bit rusty coming in here. But lots of the players were in round one. We can forgive old Paddy for that. A couple of nice intercept marks, so, but really looked at home. You know, I was a little bit worried. He looked like he got a little bit of a knock in the pack, but yeah, bounced up. That was all good. Do you play Hinge or McCartan on field? I don't know. Do I keep the faith with Hinge? Look, there's a 20-point gap there, so yeah, I get these wrong every week, but I'm not sure if we'll be able to use DeConning as a loop. It just depends on the fixture. If we can, that would be really, really handy, I think, and I'd probably take a 60, I think, just to be safe. All right, so into the midfield. So yeah, the first four picks here looking really, really good. Vice-Captain Jack McRae, and this is why I was pretty keen on having a loop, because he's got a lot of early games, and this is what he can produce, 130 plus every day of the week. But having someone like a Miller there, and this week it was a little bit different playing West Coast. I was expecting, 180. I'm exaggerating. I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, 137 take every day of the week from Miller. But yeah, McRae just did the usual Jack McRae stuff, 30 plus. You can basically lock that in every week. So I was just wrapped with the man. You got to have Jack McRae, I think. Just just an absolute no-brainer. Tuke Miller, so 130. And quickly, just on this as well, I know that George has copped a fair bit for dropping McRae for Steele. Remember, he had his reasons. It wasn't the worst bet in the world, I don't think. McRae's average versus Steele's average. Steele's going to bounce back, but just for the George haters out there, this man's got runs on the board. I'm backing George in every day of the week. So, yeah, George, don't worry, man. You don't have McRae, but you got I Dream of Heaney, mate. So you've got your own unique pick, brother. So keep going, my man. But yeah, look, on Tuke Miller. Yeah, man crush. I love him. If I was in this bloke's grade, I'd be writing little love notes. Pass this to Tuke. He's just epitomises what an AFL footballer should be. His leadership, just everything. Work rate. I'm on repeat. I know that I am. So I'm going to stop there. He doesn't need much discussion, but he's a pretty safe captain each week, and he'll rival Jack McRae to be the best scorer in Supercoach this year. And best of all, didn't Jared Witts have an absolute ripper of a game as well? Hit-outs to advantage, and that's where Miller and this man, Matty Rowell, are really going to benefit this year as well. Having someone like Witts tapping it down their throat is only going to mean better things for their scoring, I think. So, yeah, Tuke Miller, great selection. Only in about 25% of sides as well. So, not an uber pod, but a relative pod compared to someone like a Jack Steele, for example, McRae. Lockie Neal, 140. Yeah, he's a bad man. Look, had a bit of a quieter sort of start to the game, but really made his way into it and was a real dominant force, particularly in the second half. So a 140, I don't expect an average of 140 from him. I think 125 is about where Neal could be, even a 120, but could, again, push it up to 130. We've seen him do it in the past. He's fit. He's firing. I talked about my last team reveal that all the off-field stuff seems to have worked itself out, and he's in a really, really good place, I think, Lockie Neal. The new father as well, having a great time. Just loving life, Lockie Neal. So, yeah, really, really wrapped with that score, 140. Again, very highly owned player. I think most of us have got him. Matty Rowell, again, a highly owned player, but a 157. I just love this bloke. Now, what do I love about this pick? It's the fact that he just goes in so hard, and the large majority of his possessions are contested. He just goes in a million miles an hour. But again, that's something that I don't really like about the pick, because it's just heart in your mouth type stuff. You're biting your fingernails. Oh, be careful, be safe. Rioli almost knocked him out. I thought, done, he's done. Here we go, concussion, missing a couple of weeks. This is no good. But he's a tough young man, and he just bounced right back, Matty Rowell. But he just looked desperate, ferocious. He's one of those blokes that if you faced him on the football field, you wouldn't be too keen going in head first, would you? Because you know that he's just going to give his 100% commitment in that contest, and he will not shy away. So I've got so much respect for this young fella. He is absolutely elite, and it's a real early call, and I'm not writing this in the book, but he could be a keeper. Matty Rowell could be a keeper. Remember, some people selected him at 500k last year, assuming that he could be a keeper. For this price, 342, if you don't have him, I think he's a must-have. Look, give it another week. Don't rush in now, because, hey, he could knock himself out the way that he goes about his football, Matty Rowell. But, yeah, I'd really look to get him in if he goes just even 100 plus again next week, because there's a lot of money to be made, and I hope that he can remain my M8 for the rest of the year. Jared Berry, the tale of two halves to this game, my favourite. Now, remember, Tuke Miller is my favourite non-Brisbane Lions player. Jared Berry is my favourite Brisbane Lions player. I love the man as well. So a lot of man love. Again, notes to him, notes to Tuke. I'd play the field a little bit, because I don't think I could choose between the two. But Jared Berry's first half, particularly his first quarter, you thought, wow, here we go. There's a lovely 120 on the cards. I know there are a few tweets put out after one quarter. I wouldn't say egg on the face by the end of the game, those who went the early crow. But look, what we saw with Jared Berry was exactly what I mentioned when I did his preseason player profile, is that he'll give 100%, he'll give his everything, but at times his decision-making can be a little bit off, and his disposal can let him down. And that's one thing that really did let him down during this game, was his disposal. And funnily enough, one of his worst disposals, I think, of the night, that was going straight to Aaliyah. Poor old Aaliyah, but he'd done a syndesmosis injury there, so he failed to mark the ball. Look, really sore on his way back, and that was one of the turning points of the game from such a terrible kick. Just bombed it down. And look, maybe he didn't have too many options, under pressure and all the rest. I understand that, but yeah, if you watched Jared Berry closely, you would have probably questioned some decisions and certainly that disposal efficiency. But he gives it 100%. One concerning thing towards the end of the game was that he did hold his shoulder. Yeah, that's a little bit dodgy. Durability is always a bit of a concern. But look, would I be trading out Jared Berry? No, if he's fit and he plays this week, I would certainly be holding him. But if he doesn't get up this week and there's something up with that shoulder, which I don't think that there is, I haven't heard any whispers myself anyway. That's not to say that I've got all this inside information or anything like that. Yeah, if he misses, I'd highly consider trading him. If he plays, keep the faith, I think, with Jared Berry. Always give it another week. You know, he could turn around and get a 40. He could turn around and get 100 plus. We don't know. So I'd give Jared Berry just one more week anyway, personally. In my circumstances anyway. Jason Horne-Francis. Wow, this guy is meant for Supercoach. He's built for Supercoach. I think he was on about 7 disposals maybe for about a 49. I think, which is just the ultimate. That's what you want, you know, lots of score involvements. He's tough. One thing that annoyed me a little bit was I felt that he cracked it a little bit when maybe a couple of frees didn't go his way. I reckon I saw it 2 or 3 times, you know, throw the arms up. So I reckon he needs to learn just to try to let it go and just get back involved with the game. You know, don't let that, you know, play in his head. But I don't think it affected him too much. You know, a score of 75 is pretty nice. An on-field option, I was sort of thinking, is he an on-field option? Do I start a Stevens over him? But I think you just start him every week. Very highly owned player. He did everything I think that we needed to see, and hopefully he'll get that forward status as well. But yeah, just a tough young man and skillful as well, you know. Put it through the big sticks. Yeah, really, really liked his game. Nick Dacos, do you lock him into the rising star? Well, I tell you what, Rochelle may have something to say about that after his 5-goal performance. We'll talk about him in a minute. But Dacos, yeah, we've all got him. I don't think we need to talk too much. Would have been really nice just to get 2 more points, to get triple figures in his first game. But this guy is absolutely elite. He's going to be a Supercoach staple for the next 15 years, I think, Dacos. So just love him as a pick. Ward, now this was really disappointing. So I didn't really notice him much throughout the whole game at all. You know, 36 points, I suppose, suggests that he didn't have much of an impact. But, you know, he's one of those players that I wasn't keen on until that practice match. And I think I mentioned in the last one, he went from not really considering too much to an absolute lock after that game. And it would have been pretty crazy not to select him after that game. Lots of inside midfield time. Was it 18, 20 contested possessions, something ridiculous like that. But didn't really have that role. You know, Newcomb really stepped up. You know, Mira in there, Mitchell. They're a lot stronger through the midfield, which is unfortunate for Ward, I think. So, again, I'm not going to trade him this week. I'll hold on for another week. But, you know, if he punches out another 30-odd, he may be a corrective trade, depending on if you got money in the bank, what your situation's like. I don't think he's a must-hold if he scores really low next week. But if he punches out at 65, 70, I'm just going to keep on to him, keep the faith, I think. Dylan Stevens, 59, yeah, he looked all right. You know, I had him pegged for about a 65, I think, average this year. And that was a bit of guesswork. I don't really know him too well as a player, but I was just basing off his role, the fact he's been in the system, he's not a first-year rookie. More of an outside type player, we know that. But yeah, again, probably did everything we needed to see from him. And at 59, I'll take that from Stevens. Originally didn't have him in the last team reveal, but drop Steele for him. And if you look at what Steele scored compared to Stevens on the bench, yeah, for the price you're paying, yeah, it's not a big difference, is it? Connor McDonald, I like the look of him better than I did Ward. Got more involved as the game went on. Didn't have the best role for Supercoach, not overly Supercoach friendly, but I think that what was evident was that he does have some talent, played in the right role, he can accumulate the football as we know, so I probably prefer McDonald over Ward. Well, I like the look of McDonald more over Ward, and that was the case all in the preseason until that last practice match. So, yep, 48 to 60, I think, is probably his range. Maybe a 45 to 60, I think, every week, McDonald. Hoff for a 47. Again, I decided to go him over a loop. So, funnily enough, when you see the forward line, you may understand why he's not going to survive for me. Now, will I trade him out this week? There's a possibility. I'll talk about this in a minute when I get to the forward line. But again, didn't set the world on fire. Got a build like me, or yeah, I won't say that. Yeah, he hasn't got a build like he's bigger than me. Obviously, I won't offend him that much, old Hoffy. But yeah, look, I suppose when you've got a 36 from Ward, a 48 from McDonald, I'd be pretty crazy thinking to trade him out when he's got a 47 when I'm saving, what's that, about 63k on someone like a Ward. But yeah, it just didn't excite me too much. Job security, I don't know either. When Witherden comes back, another backman they've got due soon, I think. Does he go out? Yeah, I really don't know. Decision making wasn't terrific either at times. Into the rucks and the forwards. So I did go with Big Maxi. I'll tell you what, those people that selected Darcy, it was probably a great move because you would have avoided, and when I say you would have avoided Gawn, this man will bounce back, and I'm sure about that. But if you didn't go Darcy, you've probably gone either a Witts or a Marshall, and they both looked really, really good in week one. And this is possibly an issue with having Max Gawn, is the fact that he's 657k. Now, he's going to outscore Jared Witts. I'm sure about that. Wittsy got him this week and did look really good, particularly those hit-outs to advantage. But Max Gawn, I think, is good for a 115 average plus. A 92, traditionally, we see this from Gawn a lot. And look, there was this one time in the game, and I think it was about 40, 50 metres out on the boundary line. There was a kick to him, and he literally went up for it and then decided against it. Actually, I'm not even going to try to mark this. And just literally watch the ball go out of bounds. And I thought, Maxi, you are absolutely trolling us, mate. I was jumping up and down going, what's going on with this pick, you know? But at the end of the day, I picked him for a reason that was just to be safe. Again, was that too safe? I'm not too sure. I'd love a Marshall there if Ryder doesn't play in the side. So a Marshall-Hayes combination would be terrific for Rowan because he'd play the large majority of time in the ruck. Hayes would just be that chop out because he's not that traditional ruck size type player. But if Ryder does come back in, can you fit all three? I'm not sure. Surely you can't drop Hayes. Even with a fit Ryder, after that performance, you've got to give the young man his opportunity. You can't drop him because I think he's probably their best player, to be quite honest. Him and Rowan were right up there, I think, for St Kilda. So if you've got the two of those at R2 and R3, it's a really, really nice combo. I'm assuming most people have Grundy as a pretty popular selection. Grundy again looked good. Rowan, what was that, a 123 maybe? So Grundy may have gone in by a point, or maybe even Rowan got a 125. I'm not too sure. But that's really solid. You know, that's what we expect from Grundy. That's probably what we were hoping. Just lock that in every day. I'm pretty happy. And this man, Jack Hayes. Now, I was writing down notes while I was watching this game, and it started off with, this bloke's had a really good 4-minute period. You know, he's got a nice contested mark, you know, put through a goal, got a really nice clearance. And then these things kept on coming. Another contested mark, another goal. I'm adding these things. The 4-minute period changed from a 6-minute period to an 8-minute period to a 15-minute period. And this bloke just dominated this game during that particular point of time. He just did absolutely everything. Kick goals, contested marks, couple of hit outs, some clearances, going hard at the ball. And that left foot assist, you know, on the boundary line, how clean was that for a big fella? And I just thought to myself, this bloke has absolutely everything. So love him as a selection. I've currently got him at R3. Do you switch him down to F8 for Dixon, and then bring him on field? Probably not with my setup. I don't think he's going to go a 127 each week, but look, who knows? The sky's the limit for this bloke. I'd be expecting probably closer to a 70 type, I think, most weeks. But this bloke just dominated. Was it the third quarter? I think it was the third quarter, maybe wrong. But yeah, just super stoked with him. Unfortunate that I had him on the bench, though. You know, a few people managed to get this 127 on field. Lots of people even traded in a donut. Some people kept Darcy, so that would have been a pretty nice play. You keep Darcy, who's a player that you really want to start with. Have Hayes fill in and get the 127 on field. That would have been brilliant if you managed to do that. But I don't think there would have been a heap that did it. Kudos to you if you did. This week anyway, it worked out. Now onto the forward line. So Dunkley, yeah, lovely game from him. I thought it might have been bigger than 117 at one stage. I thought it might have been closer to a Jack McRae type score. But yeah, look, we locked that in. He's an absolute gun. He'll only get better each week. I'm not sure if Bont plays this week as well. That means better things for Josh Dunkley, I think. Zachy Butters, a 114, Mr. Kamikaze. And look, what I was hoping from this game was a Brisbane Lions win, a nice score from Lockie, a nice score from Berry, and a nice score from Butters, without him dominating too much to get poured over the line. And that's probably what I got. Apart from Berry, I would have liked an 80 plus, I think, from him. But But look, the thing that worries me, and it's similar to the concern I've got with Matty Rao, is just the way that he attacks the contest. And look, you don't want him to stop playing the way that he's playing, right? But I can just see injury happening because he just goes so hard, doesn't think about his well-being. He just plays on instinct, this man, and he is a gun player. I love this bloke, Didn't dominate the game, but that's probably a good sign that he can still punch out a 114. I still think one of the better players for Port, but not a Travis Boak type game. But he certainly will have more of those Travis Boak type games, I think, in the season. I'm talking about score-wise here, pushing that 130 to 140 plus mark. Cogs, 80. We've all got him. Not much discussion. Probably the only discussion now is, can he be a keeper? With some of the performances that we saw from some other forwards over the weekend, players like a Tim English, who can also be selected as a ruck, someone like a Jordan De Goey, Isaac Heaney played a really good match, even a Taranto. There were some pretty nice scores there around that 440k type mark. So, look, I'm not too sure at this stage. It's only one round, but an 80 for 261k, we take that every day of the week. That's fine. Mitch McGovern, so I was disappointed with his score in the end because I love this bloke's game. How's that big mark that he got? That was just, I was out of my chair, just shouting at the rooftops. He was looking so good until he had a bit of that fall. Did he fall on his hip or his side, and didn't look great after that. I think that hampered him a little bit, but he'll be fine for next week. The main thing with this pick is that we saw the role. We saw him in the role, and I really liked it. His disposal was terrific. A couple of really nice goal assists, those intercept marks. I didn't actually realise how good of a kicker of the football that this man is. He really impressed me with his disposal. So he pretty much did everything that I wanted to see out of Mitch McGovern. And I think that 70 can easily push an 85 plus average from him. When I say easily, look, I'm pegging him from an 80, and I'll be pretty happy with that. Round 6, hopefully I'm just going to swing him down back for DeConning, and you've even got a Dacos there as well, which you'll be able to swing. So yeah, really wrapped with the McGovern pick. A 70 isn't super, but at the price, that's okay, and I think that's going to be more his floor, I think, at this stage anyway. Brody, this was looking pretty good for a ton at one stage, but unfortunately, he basically didn't play any of the fourth term. I was super frustrated. I'm looking on the AFL app where you can see how long they've been on the bench. Oh, man, I'll tell you what. Now, I don't know what the reason for this was. Is it that he doesn't have the tank? And if that's the case, you shouldn't have given him a game at the start, because it hinders the other players because they get less of a rotation, So if he doesn't have the tank to play out a full game or close to a full game, only 3/4, don't select the bloke in your 22, is my opinion. Now, was it a trust issue? Was it the fact that, do you know what? We want other players out there. We want players with some more strings to their bow. This bloke's just going to be a plotter in the fourth quarter just because he doesn't have that fitness base. I'm not too sure, but either way, I don't think that it was a good thing. Now, was he stuck on the bench for a large period of time? Was the plan to get him on a little bit earlier? I'm really not too sure, but these are the question marks that do concern me with the pick. But 76 in basically 3/4 of football is great for the price. It's terrific for the price. I really wanted that to be, and it was looking like it was going to be a 90 plus, but that time on ground was just terrible. I think it was about a 62 to a 64, just from memory. So, am I disappointed with that? Yes and no. Look, a 76 at that price, I said we'll take, but it could have and should have probably been a little bit more. Does he play when Fife's in the side? That'll be interesting. I'm really not too sure. But when I talk about the next few players, I'll talk about a little bit of trading strategy that I've got anyway. Now, Cherry, again, I think that Noble was trolling us a little bit because Goldie, he was named as number one ruck on the team sheets, but Cherry started as that number one man and remained that number one man for the majority of the game. The great thing going for this pick is the fact that Goldie's been so successful as a forward, and I really rated Goldie's game. I thought he was one of North Melbourne's best. Still went all right in the ruck, Goldie, but I think most of his damage was actually when he was up forward. Now, the issue with the Cherry selection is you've got Cherry that got selected, Goldie, and also CCJ. Now, I'm not too concerned about that. I don't think that the three tools really worked well for North Melbourne. I'm not David Noble, but for me, they lacked a little bit of run there, a little bit too slow. But the good thing about this is that Cherry's not going to be the one that gets dropped. Now, I'm not going to guarantee, because again, I just mentioned not David Noble, but surely you wouldn't drop him for a CCJ. So if one of the big three get dropped, I think it's Coleman Jones. I don't think it's Cherry, and I don't think it's Goldie. It's not going to be Goldie. You can lock him in. So it would be out of Cherry and CCJ. This bloke did so much more. CCJ did pretty much nothing, in my opinion, anyway. So I'm still happy with the pick. The main issue is that you've got this man, Josh Rachele, who's getting a 118 on the bench, and I don't think this will happen every week. But again, I said he's not going to kick 3 goals every week because he did that in the 2 practice matches. I'll tell you what, I was right. No, he kicked 5. Yeah, anyway, talk about Rachele in a minute. But yeah, the issue is that Rachele could be on field, and I could drop one of these 200k blokes. I don't actually need them there. And I'm obviously missing Nick Martin as well. So if you had Rachele and Martin on field over, just say, a Brodie and a Cherry, then there's money in the bank and there's points on field as well. And that's what I'm talking about, probably playing it a little bit too safe, because with Martin, I was just worried about his job security. But with Langford out now and with his performance, you can't drop him. His security is just, I wouldn't say through the roof, but yeah, it's a lot higher than what I was expecting it to be anyway. But look, Rachele we'll talk about. This bloke is an absolute jet. One of the cleanest players in the comp already. He did get a behind, which wasn't the worst kick in the world, and he did get one which didn't actually register a score, which won't count towards his accuracy. But this bloke is so clean. He's a clutch player, and I think he's one of those guys that loves the big moments, like the Michael Jordan type, give me the ball, let me take the responsibility. I want to have a crack at this. He just seems like he's built for those big games and a big performance type player. Almost got the Crows over the line, this fella. So he's an absolute gun. Rachele, we're not going to get this every week. Look, he could drop a stinker here and there. Adelaide might not be the most successful team. He's one of their best players, without a doubt, already, and he's played 1 match. You've got to have him. Ideally, it would probably be on field. I think you can trust him enough to put him on field. And finally, Hugh Dixon, 42. I think at worst he's going to turn into my loop. So I said that the loop will probably work itself out. And keeping Hayes and Dixon there, I think, is a pretty logical thing to do at this stage anyway, because Hayes, I think he plays for the short term anyway. And Dixon, I think he's got short-term job security, maybe the next few weeks, and then he'll probably just turn into a loop. But having that R3 loop with Hayes, and they'll have Cherry there as well, he'll get DPP status when it comes to round 6. I think that's going to be pretty handy. So doesn't worry me too much what Dixon scores. I'll just have him there, I think, for now. Now, do we trade this week? That's the big thing you need to ask yourself. Now, probably for me this week, I am going to break a rule, and I think that I'm going to make one trade this week. And it sounds a little bit silly, doesn't it? I know. The reasoning behind this is the fact that I don't want to use a trade boost so early on in the season, and I've got a feeling that I may need to make a couple of correctional trades next week. Now, I know that Martin is one bloke that I have to get in. He's an absolute must. He's a no-brainer at 102k with a 100-plus score. It's only going to be in his system for the first week, but watching him, he's a player. He's a player, and I've got to have him in my side. Not because I'm expecting him to get 100-plus every week, but because I think he's just going to be a really reliable option. So what I'm thinking about doing at this stage is, now, I don't want to drop Ward, because I really rate him. We saw what he did in a preseason match. It's only a preseason match, but we've seen his ceiling, right? We know what he can produce. McDonald, I'm pretty keen. I think his job security is okay. The other bloke we've got here, Stevens, definitely stays. Hoff's probably the one that I'm looking at here. So what I'm looking to do is to possibly, and again, I probably should wait another week with these 200k players, but I don't want to have to, for example, have to trade out of Jack Crisp, have to get Martin in. There's my 2 trades already gone for next week. And how about if I cop an injury to a premium, let's just say, which is really a forced trade, isn't it? So yeah, that's why I probably need to go early this week, at least on Martin, who I think is a guarantee. So I think the most logical thing for me to do is just to get Rachele in my midfield, and then we look to get Nick Martin into the forward line, I think. So, Nick Martin, in you come, son. Welcome to the team. Again, I just played a little bit safe. I wasn't too keen on going with, well, who would I had? I would have had Hayes, Dixon, and Martin as 102k players between the ruck line and the forwards. It just looked a little bit dicey. But again, probably, shouldn't have gone between the red flags so much. So that's probably the one change I'm making this week. But I want to stress to you, the reason why I'm going early on this is because I'm predicting that I may need to make 2 next week, and I don't want to waste a boost so early on. So I wouldn't recommend ever trading after 1 week, particularly a premium. That's why I'm sticking fat with Crisp at the moment. But I feel that Martin is going to be an absolute must-have. With Langford down now, coupled with his performance, 5 goals, mind you, which really a 114 for 5 goals, I think is probably a little bit low. That should have been a 125 plus in my opinion anyway, watching the game. He's just got to come into my side. So I know that I need to do it. And, well, the main decision is it a Hoff or a Ward? He scored better than Ward, so that is a bit of a risk at this stage, but I do really rate him, and I think that Ward does have a 100 game in him at some stage. So I'm going to probably stick fat there. And if you look at the other rookies I've got now, I'll have Martin. Dixon, I'm still keen on because he's going to be that, switch between ruck, forward, and hopefully a loop at some stage of the year. Hayes is a must-have at this stage, particularly with his 102k price tag. McDonald, I think, you just keep. Stevens is a really good selection. Rochelle, you've absolutely got to have. And then you probably can't change these blokes because who do you go down to? The only other option that I think you've got is a Gibcus. Okay, I'm not too keen on that. Now, I've got 100k in the bank, which means next week I've got a few tricks up my sleeve potentially. Look, if I didn't go on Martin and I just left that for this week, if one of these blokes was a clear failure, which Brodie's the potential one here, then I could even go down to a Nick Martin there. I've got 124. That makes over 200k. And then I could, upgrade a Chapman type if he fails to a Sicily. That's certainly an option I've got up my sleeve as well. But I'm really not too sure at this stage. We'll see how we go. But I'd recommend not trading if you can. But I know lots of people are going to be tempted to. Keep the faith in the premiums if you can. What I will do during the week as well is I will do a separate video, maybe let's call it Around the Grounds. And we may even make this a weekly thing. I'll either get Spills or Janeth on the channel. I'll do an Around the Grounds with them where we'll check out all the scores from all the players from every match in round 1. That might be a little bit of fun, and you'll get another set of eyes apart from mine, which is always good as well. And it's always good for me, to be quite honest. But yeah, that is the team. Am I happy? Not overly. But I'm not panicking, okay? I'm not getting too upset. I'm not getting too angry because we usually find in round 2 that things start to settle down a little bit. Some of these players, and even players that I haven't got, like a Jack Steele, for example, I'm sure that he'll bounce back. Some like a Crisp, I'm hoping that he does. But again, if I see what I saw on the weekend, he's out of my side. He's got to be a correctional, I think, because I'm not paying that much for someone that has just basically a nothing role. And Berry, he's one to monitor, I think. Chapman, we'll see how he goes, but 80 for now, that's okay. All these blokes we definitely look to keep on to. No issues there, I don't think. The midfield, Berry, Ward, maybe slight concerns there. Look, do you go down to someone like a Witts, a Marshall, an English? I've selected Gawn for reasons, so I'm probably going to stick fat there, but it may tempt some people if he goes another 90, let's just say, and I'll have some questions I need to ask myself as well, given the fact he's going to plummet in price, and if an English type, a Witts type, a Marshall type have another really solid 110 plus type game, then I've got a big decision on my hands, but I'm probably just going to stick fat with Maxi, keep the faith, I think. Grundy we all keep. Cogs, Butters, Dunkley, yes. McGovern, yes. Brodie, we just see how he goes for another week. And Cherry, I really like the look of and think he'll only improve as the season goes on. So do I get Martin this week? Probably, just to prepare for next week. It's a little bit of a risk in trading out Hoff just after 1 round. But yeah, he's probably the only glaring rookie omission. And if I can get that right this week, then I think I'm pretty set rookie-wise. And it's maybe just a premium or two that I may look to sideways. And I wouldn't recommend that. The only time you do that is if you're pretty certain that this pick isn't going to work. Make sure your reasons are strong. Make sure they're valid. Don't just jump the gun. But yeah, if there's major warning signs, it is okay to sideways a play up before the price rises at the start of round 3, at the end of round 2. So that's it for now, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you had a great round as well. Obviously, with the prices not going up this week, we're not going to have a stock market video. I'll replace that with just an around the grounds type thing, and we can even talk about some break-evens or what they'll need to achieve next week in order to even just match your break-even, go under it or go above it. But next week, at the conclusion of round 2, we will have our first SuperCoach stock market video. So if you are new to the channel, I go through all the projected prices, the break-evens, give thoughts on all the players. I have different badges and symbols and icons, from the old man Mr. Burns symbol to the trap symbol to the peanut for Peanut Peter Adams. You know, if you've been around the channel for a couple of years, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, then you'll have no idea and you're probably a little bit confused here. But yeah, that's probably really what did get my channel off the ground, the stock market videos. And they're probably the most popular videos that I produce and probably the biggest part of my channel. So that first stocky video will be out at the end of round 2. So that's my team, guys. Hope you had a rip around. Take care. Remember, don't panic. It's a long season. Don't get too stressed at the moment. All right. Lady Luck, I'm sure, will be on your side this week. So take care, guys. All the best, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Cheers. Bye.